Yeah, like I said, the next video, the TikTok video, this one's shorter. It's like 18 minutes, and this one's way longer. So this is our longer topic for the night. But yeah, let's get into it.
TikTok is now the most used social media. TikTok is now the most used social media app by Generation Z, with TikTok having more engagement
Fact.
than YouTube and 1 billion active monthly users. It's very clear that if you've been paying attention, TikTok is now taking over the world. Everyone you know and probably yourself has an app on your phone right now, and yet countries around the world are starting to ban TikTok.
Literally,
The
Argy
US
has one,
military
Game
bans
has
the app
one.
on all devices and the devices of their family members. And now, according to top politicians, researchers, and the CIA, TikTok now poses the greatest threat to national security. But even darker is that just in the last few months, experts have now discovered that TikTok is creating a mental illness pipeline, a pipeline that almost no one knows about. It's barely been reported on, but it's a pipeline that is affecting all of us. In fact, this TikTok pipeline is becoming so damaging that President Joe Biden was forced to announce that TikTok is now, quote, a matter of genuine concern. But how on earth could a stupid lip-syncing app become a national
Let's just
security
go into the
threat?
wall.
What makes this app so dangerous? Well, to understand this, we need to begin looking at the start of this pipeline. It all starts with the average TikToker
And I'm just trying to chase after him.
TikTok and autopilot. Just a couple
Okay.
videos before he gets up, you think to yourself. But before you've gotten out of bed, you've been scrolling for 30 minutes and didn't even realize it. These short bursts of 30-second videos serve as noise, empty distractions that have already increased your dopamine tolerance. And this is how the TikTok mental illness pipeline begins. From the minute you wake up looking at your phone to the rest of the hours you spend on TikTok, you are constantly rewiring neural pathways that help manage your emotions, self-control, and information processing. Which is why if you have TikTok, it is destroying your attention span at a faster rate than any other social media app. A study from August 2021 found that TikTok destroys the part of your brain that inhibits self-control. But even worse, this happens to everyone. If you right now have even a limited exposure to TikTok, it only takes a few hours to make your brain addicted to the flow of videos that TikTok endlessly supplies. The same study found that this constant stream of videos damages your prefrontal cortex, and this damage is permanent, which is why it's now reported that we have the attention spans of goldfish. And when you have a low attention span, this also destroys your self-control. And studies show that when you have lower levels of self-control, it's very likely for you to become much more depressed. But you see, this is just the start of how damaging TikTok is. This is just a small taste of things to come.
I want to see that study. I'm kind of sus of that. I don't doubt it, but
I
still.
want to tell you about today's sponsor.
It's always good to do your own
Morning
research,
Brew.
you know?
Morning Brew is a free daily newsletter
Not a
delivered to you
sponsorship.
Monday to Sunday. That gets
I'll
you
let
up
it
to speed
slide
on
this
business,
one
finance,
time.
and tech news in just 5 minutes. Before I subscribed to Morning Brew, I'd start my mornings aimlessly browsing YouTube and Twitter. But now with Morning Brew, I receive a summary of relevant news stories that are really informative. For example, I learned that American investors now have stakes in more than half of all Premier League football teams, with Chelsea FC now being the latest club to be gobbled up by investors, with Chelsea being bought out due to sanctions being placed on Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich. There's no reason not to subscribe to Morning Brew if you're interested in business, finance, or tech. It's completely free and takes less than 15 seconds to subscribe. So sign up for free by visiting morningbrewdaily.com/moon or by clicking the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Researchers are now understanding that there is a direct link between TikTok and the mental illness epidemic we are wallowing in, a much bigger correlation than any other social media app. But what's more pressing is that TikTok actively promotes this mental illness epidemic. The mental illness epidemic it's cultivating. You see, the culture of TikTok creates a perfect breeding ground for mental illness, and oftentimes this is a classic problem with all social media.
I could see that actually, because like some of my friends, they have like TikTok obviously, and like they took this like quiz or whatever, and the quiz determined that they have anxiety or whatever, and that they're very stressed or depressed, right? So like that was generally the main ones that kind of got answered. Like some of my friends had anxiety, the others were classified as depressed. That's generally what the results were for that test for some of them, for all of them pretty much.
Dedicated to the promotion and self-diagnosis of mental illness. In fact, it's very likely that if you go on the TikTok
So I can kind of see that.
you'll often see the commodification of mental illness, something quirky and as a personality trait. Now obviously this is bad for those who actually suffer from mental illness, but this has gotten so bad that TikTokers are actively fabricating entire lists of symptoms, syndromes, and disorders, which in itself is creating this whole new phenomena. In 2021, roughly 13 teens were referred to the Rush Medical Center. These were mostly teenage girls, and they began to exhibit the abnormal involuntary actions of Tourette's syndrome, where they would have, quote, involuntary actions from jerking arm movements to curse words to head and neck twitches. They were also reported as
And dude, I was on TikTok today because I downloaded it. I downloaded it right to talk to one of my friends from like 4th grade. Literally, I saw a lot of things that I shouldn't
The same medical worker then found out that all these girls shared the same interest in
Like,
watching
TikTok is a
videos
sus
about
place now.
Tourette's. But
A
the
year ago I
researchers
had
found
it.
that the top
Back then
Tourette's
it was like
activist
pretty
on
much
TikTok
Vine.
was a British woman who
But
shouted
now
beans
it's
frequently as part of her condition.
way
This
different,
TikTok
dude.
phenomena has weird parallels
Are you
to the
kidding me?
2001 anthrax attacks, where people who never contracted the disease developed similar symptoms
suicide
after
deaths.
watching too many reports on anthrax. This weird TikTok mental illness phenomena was then further proven in later years. Researchers found that due to the isolation of lockdowns leading to increased screen time, huge swaths of teenagers developed mental illnesses, with many of these young TikTok users having TikTok-induced tics. But then when society went back to normal in 2022, this spike in Tourette's went down considerably. They discovered that people who watched TikTok videos on Tourette's would actually develop Tourette's just by watching these videos. And then later on in DSM-5 TikTok, the author found the promotion of mental disorders on TikTok took up front-page real estate on the app, with many of these influencers faking mental illness for clout. Like, for example, the TikToker called Tix and Roses. Tix and Roses claimed to have suffered from Tourette's by the age of 6, and by 2017, she had created a TikTok account to spread awareness for Tourette's and promote her business. It didn't take long for her to amass over 500,000 TikTok followers. However, suspicion was high from the moment that Tix and Roses gained any semblance of a following, because not all people with Tourette's present vocal tics. In fact, a vast majority of people with Tourette's don't have this symptom. However, if someone with Tourette's
I'll turn it up
has
so
tics,
some of you
then there
guys can
tends to be a
understand
few
it more, 'cause I
key
didn't turn it up
characteristics
myself.
that are mostly consistent with other sufferers of Tourette's. These are that the tics are semi-voluntary and can often result in injury. They are also random, though generally happen in batches or in groups. And lastly, they are commonplace. The urges are always present in day-to-day life, and suppressing the tics for extended periods of time is close to impossible. Of course, all these symptoms can vary, but there is a general pattern. However, Tix and Roses seem to defy lots of these rules. Her tics seem to conveniently be timed and had a regularity to them that was atypical to say the least. It all seemed staged, but this wasn't proof by itself. However, this was the first suspicion of many, which led people who investigated Tix and Roses down a dark path of deception and disgust. In hindsight, it was very clear that Tix and Roses videos were staged. The combination of how fake they look compared to actual Tourette's, as well as how Tix and Roses would smile into the camera and laugh at every other tic, made a convincing case by itself. Although all the lies unraveled when people started to investigate the other things that Tix and Roses had posted, what they found was shocking. Tix and Roses had numerous channels dedicated to topics other than Tourette's, and on these videos she would never tic at all. For example, she had a TikTok dedicated to crystal healing, where she displayed no visible tics whatsoever, but she did have an excuse. These were just short videos, so she could have suppressed her tics. But then, in an hour-long livestream, she went the entire duration reading poetry without exhibiting a single tic. This is impossible for anyone who actually suffers from Tourette's, and it was something she couldn't weasel out of easy, especially considering the symptoms she had shown off on her Tourette's account. As this evidence spread like wildfire, Tix and Roses tried one last trick. In a futile attempt to prove her critics wrong, she uploaded a letter from a doctor that seemed to prove she had Tourette's. However, the letter seemed off, in much the same way as her tics did. There were numerous mistakes. Some of her diagnoses were listed twice, all were left extremely broad, which no real doctor would do. But worst of all is why did the doctor refer to her as a very pleasant 27-year-old left-handed lady? Even the logo at the top of the sheet looked fake. In fact, it matched the first Google image results, but didn't match the logo on official documents later uploaded by a Reddit user. With her web of lies falling apart and her videos being mobbed by people exposing her fraud, Tix and Roses vanished from the platform. And now Tix and Roses is just the tip of the iceberg here. The fact that faking a mental illness is any way desirable on the platform is the real problem with TikTok. You see, TikTok actively promotes these sorts of channels. And I mean, who knows at this point how many millions of young people have been exposed to content that celebrates and promotes mental illness. And then once these users are exposed to this sort of content, they are then caught in these algorithm loops that make the users mentally ill themselves. I mean, social media in general plays a huge role in developing one's identity and personality, but with TikTok, this process works in such a powerful way, where the app actively recommends these channels to exactly the kinds of people who will be most vulnerable to it. People suffering from Tourette's will see a lot of Tourette content. Depressed people will mostly be shown depressing content. People who are anxious are showed anxiety-inducing content.
Makes sense, they want to
If
keep
the
you
app
watching
thinks you're in the
forever.
same demographic as people who engage with this content, then it will guide you towards it. But the worst thing is that through TikTok's insanely advanced
Twitch,
AI
really
algorithms and addictive user design, TikTok will trap you in these thought loops and you won't even be aware that you're in one. In one article by Sadie Lee, she describes her experience on TikTok, where she found herself in this addictive TikTok loop of people self-diagnosing OCD and autism. She described that once she was stuck in this loop of content, she and millions of others would engage with this community of self-diagnosing on TikTok. And this is where the TikTok pipeline takes a very sinister turn, because the true danger of this lies not only in its damage to the people who really suffer from these conditions, but also to TikTok users' own self-development and future progress. Dr. Anthony Daniels highlighted this problem in his book Life at the Bottom, where he described the underdevelopment and poverty of the English underclass. He claimed that the cause of their suffering was due to their mindset and lack of personal responsibility, which was instilled by their family and culture, which is why he recounted that the English underclass weren't suffering from material poverty, but poverty of the soul. When working with these people, he described, quote, "Day after day, I hear of the same violence, the same neglect, the same broken relationships, the same nihilism, the same dumb despair." He recounted that people suffering the most in English society usually happen due to destructive thought loops instilled in them by their culture, where they would adopt this mindset that negates all self-accountability and personal responsibility. For example, he saw this with alcoholics who would explain their misconduct while drunk, saying things like the beer made them mad, acting as if the beer drank the alcoholic. And this denial of agency and therefore the personal responsibility gives people excuses to damage their own progress. They can blame something else. They can blame the alcohol. The murderer can blame the knife. Or in the case of TikTok, the user can blame their self-diagnosis as an excuse for their self-gratification, pleasure-seeking, lazy attitude that stunts their emotional and personal development. And then mixed with the damage TikTok is doing to its users' brains, which is causing a lack of self-control through destroying your attention span, and it's very clear that TikTok is poisoning Generation Z, leaving millions in poverty of the soul, which is a very worrying fact considering that TikTok is the most used social media site of all time, and spending 80 minutes a day watching these videos, allowing TikTok to accrue over 1 billion users and being downloaded over 200 million times in the United States alone. And with TikTok's design making it very easy for almost anyone to go viral, TikTok is now fostering a whole new wave of clout chasing as well. Thanks to TikTok, young people are increasingly buying into the idea that narcissism, not fulfillment, not meaning, not authenticity, but narcissism is the ultimate measure of satisfaction. And is it really any wonder given the warped and corrosive view that's fed to Generation Z's by TikTok's algorithm? I mean, if you're not posting about mental illnesses and denying all personal agency, the other easiest way to go viral on TikTok is to dance provocatively, which is making TikTok a virtual meat market, all for the pleasure of horny teenage droogs and pedos. That's why if you go on TikTok, you'll be bombarded with endless insipid videos of girls shaking their ass to music. I mean, the majority of posts on the site looked like underage girls either showing off their bodies or being explicitly sexual. That's why the Charli D'Amelio's, the most followed people on TikTok, having over 100 million followers, just shake their ass to earworm music, all for the creepy pleasure of horny men. And what's even worse is that most of these TikTok stars haven't even left school, but nonetheless, this is in turn incentivizing the girls watching to mimic that exact behavior, all for the chance of gaining more views and more
Like I said,
likes.
TikTok used to be a great platform where you didn't just see this
TikTok
stuff.
videos,
You saw stuff like memes,
OnlyFans
funny cat
success,
videos,
where TikTokers lure
cat,
sims
like,
to their
pretending to
OnlyFans
sing.
pages, where these horny
wasn't
sims
just,
will
like, a
fork
bunch
over
of
their
girls
hard-earned
lip
cash
syncing.
for a virtual girlfriend experience. Like OnlyFans user Gothegg, who described how she used her TikTok virality to make $200,000 a month on OnlyFans in just the space of 5 months. Other top OnlyFans creators have also spoken about how TikTok has enabled them to become these hyper-affluent online stars. And this phenomenon wouldn't be happening anywhere near as quickly if not for TikTok, where TikTok is catalyzing this wave of desperate simps to hand over the money to these people who influence their everyday lives. And this trend became even darker when a Wall Street Journal investigation on TikTok found that when you said you were 13 years old and searched for OnlyFans on the app, the algorithm would bombard you with videos about adult entertainment and drugs. It's becoming very clear that TikTok is destroying Generation Z, and there's almost no way these young children can even defend themselves when they're up against some of the most advanced AI technology and sophisticated algorithms the world has ever seen. And TikTok doesn't just turn a blind eye either. These algorithms are designed to expose innocent minds to the most depraved things on the platform. And this is when the TikTok pipeline becomes very sinister. A recent study recently found that 16% of toddlers aged 3 to 4 are now on TikTok. The age restrictions on TikTok are so easy to fool that a toddler can do it, and they often do. And this number of toddlers on TikTok is only projected to grow, and these toddlers will be victims of all the things I've just spoken about. We have no idea the damage this will do to the younger generation. But let's not forget, TikTok is complicit in all of this. As these children grow up, they are going to be exposed to increasingly depraved content. Their culture, their personality and identity will be shaped by TikTok. These young, impressionable toddlers are being shaped by TikTok's algorithms, and only time will tell what effect this this will have in the future. But one thing is for certain, TikTok is manipulating the minds of over 1 billion people. And the worst part is, TikTok's damage is very insidious. Almost no one knows about this. The research is only just beginning to appear. And if TikTok keeps growing and expanding as it is, we're only going to hear more and more of these terrifying tales in the near future. We have no idea the long-term damage this is doing, and yet the younger generations are being completely addicted to the app. I mean, how many of your friends and family are already addicted to the app? The worst part is that this pipeline is all deliberate. This is just part of a plan. It's manufactured, which is why TikTok is considered the world's biggest cyber threat. This is the part that makes TikTok a matter of genuine concern and a threat to national security, because the people who control TikTok's algorithms are the people rewiring the brains of Generation Z. They are brainwashing the youngest among us, and they are doing this on the orders of the Chinese government. That's why the Chinese version of TikTok is the complete opposite of the West. Instead, on the Chinese version of TikTok, all videos that are flagged as degenerate by the Chinese government are actively removed, and yet at the same time, the algorithm promotes videos of hardworking everyday people sharing their life and work accomplishments. And as you'd expect, these videos are generally wholesome, upbeat, and positive, with there being a literal section on the Chinese TikTok called Positive Energy to promote the Communist Party. But in the West, TikTok promotes the exact opposite. On our version of TikTok, we're bombarded with girls shaking their ass to musical earworms, where mental illness is glorified as a virtue. But then back in China, Xi Jinping's Rejuvenation of the Nation project is shielding the population from the damage TikTok does to the global population. And considering TikTok is run by ByteDance, a subsidiary of China's dictatorship, you start to realize why this app is a major cyber threat, not only for TikTok's creation of the mental illness pipeline, but also from the data TikTok is extracting from you in the process. TikTok collects biometric identifiers and biometric information. All your data, including face prints and voice prints, are being stored in the Chinese government's massive databases. As Human Rights Watch has warned in the past, the Chinese government has been collecting highly personal data for years, all in an effort to bolster its biometric database. And as the CCP gains more and more influence over the world, it's obvious to almost all world governments that TikTok is a Trojan horse. The billion TikTok users around the world provides the CCP an inconceivable amount of highly personal information, and TikTok collects way more information than any other social media site. It collects everything you do, all the websites you visit, all the apps you go on, how your voice sounds, your fingerprints, everything. And the only reason ByteDance is allowed to be a multi-billion company is because it does the work for the Chinese government. The corporation is, quote, launching a full front assault on China's market, according to the South China Morning Post, as it seeks to win top rank in the country's internet world. And ByteDance is doing this by hoovering up as many users and as much data as possible with its strong algorithms. And so China actively supports ByteDance. ByteDance's top board of directors
Here's the thing. I don't like to get political on this channel. I really don't care about politics. I'm 14. I can't even vote, so that's part of the reason why I don't really care. But the first, you guys know SFC Live stands for Stories from Creators Live, and Stories from Creators was the very first ever YouTube show, my very first YouTube drama show, pretty much, ever, right? Now, my very first episode was actually about Donald Trump banning TikTok. That was literally, I kid you not, the very first episode I ever did about Stories from, with the Stories from Creators, name. And that episode has been private. I didn't delete it, but I downloaded it, put it on Mediafire with the date that it released. I think it released in August of last year. But this is the thing, right? Whether you like Trump or Biden, you gotta admit, at least like Trump was gonna ban TikTok because he saw it as a security threat. Right? And even Biden like today, he's like, he admitted, he reversed the order. So, but then he was like, oh, wait, shoot, TikTok is actually a security threat. So, and he's gonna get into that, too. The guy, Moon's he's gonna get into that topic. Again, I don't really care about politics. I don't like to get into politics, but I just wanted to, kind of point that out about how serious this is, that presidents, world leaders are worried about TikTok.
With Chinese officials. It is one of the most effective weapons in the global information war, as it allows the Chinese government to collect biometric data all across the world, from Ecuador, Ethiopia, and the United States. And if you're still not convinced by this, look at this report dubbed China Standards 2035, which looks at how artificial intelligence and big data is helping China become the dominant world force. China is leveraging their technology to take over the world. Given that almost none of the world have robust biometric privacy regulations, this data exploitation is a very serious issue. The only light to the end of this tunnel is that governments are waking up to this reality, either because of politics, data security reasons, the effects on mental health, or all the other reasons we've laid out. It is clear that there is a general pattern of government banning TikTok. India, Indonesia, and Bangladesh have all banned the app, and the USA is very close to banning the app. In fact, it almost did ban the app under Trump's government, but Biden stepped in to pause this move. But even now, Biden is having to backtrack, saying, quote, TikTok is a matter of genuine concern. And so if corrupt governments can resist...
And this is the thing, right? When Trump said he was gonna ban TikTok, a bunch of teenagers obviously were mad. Every teenager, every Gen Zer, they were all mad. They were getting VP. So what they did was they were gonna get VPNs and they were gonna download TikTok. So even if we ban TikTok in the United States, the teenagers are still gonna find a way to get it because they can't live without it that much that they'll get a whole VPN and probably pay the like $11 or $9, $7 fee it is to get that VPN just to have TikTok back. So even then, we're still screwed unless it gets banned globally, except for China, obviously.
Resist the lure of TikTok's lobbyists, TikTok won't be allowed to keep ruining the future of the world. Hopefully it won't be too late before people wake up to the reality of the casualties of TikTok, but I worry that it's already too late. TikTok is a leash that's sucking away the energy and potential of the youth, so protect your mind and country and delete TikTok today.
Yeah, there it is. Alright, so the next video, close this tab. The next video is a bit longer. I thought this video was timestamped. Shoot. Yeah, we'll kind of skip around. Maybe, I don't know. We could go for the full video.
In 2018, an app called TikTok came from nowhere. Back then, TikTok seemed like just another mindless app for teens, where teens and creeps would lip sync to insipid, droog-like songs. But in a matter of weeks, something changed. YouTubers, commentators, the media, TikTok became the new gold rush. To me, the app looked ugly, with a logo that didn't look quite right, but I didn't want to be out of touch. And me being curious, I eventually caved and downloaded it. And just like that, I was hooked. My mornings would be taken up by 30-second videos, my evenings stolen by a buffet of dopamine. I couldn't put it down, the endless scrolling, the constant dopamine hits, I had no control. I'd look around me, parties, gatherings, cafes, everyone was watching TikTok. I'd go online to find TikTok reaction videos on trending. I'd be bombarded by TikTok ads wherever I went. I'd walk around my city to see TikTok logos, graffiti, ads, TikTok dances everywhere. This was revolutionary. TikTok had achieved the impossible. TikTok had taken over the world. No one could escape its secret formula. Instant entertainment, constant dopamine, unlimited content, nothing could compete. TikTok was perfect.
Okay, this is wrong. I'm gonna close out of that.
Little did I know, we were walking into a buzzsaw. After hours of extensive research, I fell down a TikTok rabbit hole, and the further I went down this rabbit hole, the more horrifying things became. As what I'm telling you today has been ignored by almost all of the media, almost all of the influencers, and all of the corporate elites. And at the same time...
And another reason why I'm covering this now, because these videos came out like a couple of days ago, and this video right here came out like a couple of months ago. I think almost a whole year. The reason I'm covering this now is because BuzzFeed, to no shocker which shouldn't be no shocker to anyone, an article from BuzzFeed showed an investigation they did over there where 80 audio calls from China were leaked, that China got some actual user data and are gonna use that as a little Uno reverse card or whatever. So that's one of the reasons why I'm covering this now, to try to get an understanding of this a little more, because I'm 14, I'm gonna grow up in this world where technology takes over pretty much. So I want to know what I'm going to get into when I grow up.
Governments around the world are beginning to understand the true scope of what's going on. So let this video be a warning to everyone who's downloaded this insidious app. And join me as we cover the raw and unfiltered truth behind TikTok. A question. Do you never want to be bored again? Do you want fame, money, to not feel left out? For success to come sooner? This is how it begins. Through tapping into your innate biological desires, TikTok has been able to achieve 3 billion downloads. But behind our addiction to this app is something sinister. Because on the back of your constant scrolling and chasing of dopamine, someone has transformed a lip-syncing app for teens into the greatest cyber threat in human history. So the question is, who? Well, to answer this, we need to go back to 2012. Back in 2012, Vine was the closest thing you'd get to TikTok. And whilst Vine was kind of big, most people fawned for Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube because in this time it seemed like Silicon Valley was on the verge of something great, unprecedented societal change. We were so caught up with our own creations that we never gave China a second thought. But back in Beijing, something was bubbling under the surface. A creature called ByteDance. Now, ByteDance wasn't just any old tech startup. It was a startup directed by a man named Zhang Yiming, and it was also a startup that was littered with Chinese officials. Zhang's first move with ByteDance was to create a news platform called Headlines. But rather than this being any old news platform that pays for editors and reporters, ByteDance was putting their money into creating the most powerful advanced AI technology imaginable. An AI system more advanced than anything seen before it. This was no accident. In this time, the Chinese government had a strong desire to make AI a priority in the race for global tech dominance. But why was China so obsessed with AI? Why was the Chinese government so involved with working with this unknown tech company? To answer this, let's take a quick look at what ByteDance's AI technology was capable of. On this news site, there wouldn't be a curated feed or editors controlling the flow of information. Headlines instead used specially made AI algorithms to select and push the news robotically, with the company never having to hire a single reporter or editor. To test this highly developed AI system, ByteDance released the ad to the Chinese market. And almost immediately, the algorithm worked its magic. In a matter of months, Headlines became extremely popular in China, with the site gaining 10 million users in just 3 months. There was only one issue. All content that wasn't aligned with the government's core socialist values would be a legal offense, which meant there would have to be at least one editor. That's why ByteDance went so far as to publish a statement thanking the state for its supervision, making ByteDance the first ever AI-generated propaganda machine. It was the embryonic site for much darker things to come.
Darker fate to come.
It's 2016 and the Chinese government is inching towards technological dominance. But if they were going to overtake Silicon Valley, they would need to expand their AI technology across the globe. Because back in the mainland, AI proved to be an incredibly effective tool for controlling the population.
They're constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now, the Chinese are also ranked, given a mark out of a possible 950 points.
I think being ranked is a good thing. A society has to have rules. It forces us to be well behaved.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it, and anyway, we don't have a choice.
There's a simple reason for this. By using algorithms, the
Listen to
Chinese...
that line, that last line she said.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it, and anyway, we don't have a choice.
Look at that, bro. I mean, I like I said, I've kind of like I've paid attention to like parts of this video, but I haven't seen the full video completely and paid attention completely. So this is me trying to pay attention to it and see what shady stuff TikTok gets up to. But listen to that line. Anyway, we don't have a choice either way. Like, this is the world we're probably gonna end up living in. A world with no choice, and kind of the internet's already pretty much going down that alley.
There's a simple reason for this. By using algorithms, the Chinese government can connect all these data points from everything you do, using your travel records, friends, acquaintances, reading habits, and purchases, all to anticipate any political resistance. It's through these sorts of social credit scores and advanced AI technology that the Chinese government has gained a firm grip over 1.3 billion people. But what if China could use such technology outside of its own borders? What if China could move away from surveilling their own country to surveilling the globe? If they could, China would become invincible. It was in this time that the Chinese President Xi Jinping was making big efforts to grow China's cultural power, which is why Xi Jinping announced that China needs to increase its soft power to give the world a good Chinese narrative and better communicate China's messages to the world.
We have made significant advances on theoretical and cultural fronts.
Xi Jinping announced that, quote, "We should increase China's soft power, give a good Chinese narrative, and better communicate China's messages to the world." And this is where America's had the upper hand for decades. Through America's spread of culture and ideology, America has been able to maintain its global influence. And in recent years, this has been catalyzed by one thing: Silicon Valley. So how could Chinese tech companies possibly compete with Silicon Valley, where a tiny group of billion-dollar companies have almost monopolized the entire industry? If ByteDance were going to have any chance of competing, they would first need to create something groundbreaking, something so advanced, so popular, so addictive that people would have no choice but to download
It's one of the parts I
an
paid
app to
attention
control the hearts and minds of the global population. To take on such an enormous task, China would need to take this one step at a time. The first step was for Chinese tech companies like ByteDance and Tencent to start buying huge shares in social media sites. Sites like Reddit, Discord, and Snapchat, because this allowed companies like ByteDance to have a key role in company policy as a majority shareholder. But of course, buying shares in companies wasn't going to be enough. How could China create an app so addicting that it would outcompete every single social media site? To figure this out, they needed to test this technology in their own back door. So ByteDance's new venture would be with an app called Douyin, or in other words, the Chinese version of TikTok. ByteDance tested out Douyin to make sure the technology would be effective enough, and in less than a year, Douyin took over China, gaining enormous popularity, with 1 in 10 Chinese people having downloaded the app in less than a year. All because of this specially developed AI
I feel like that
technology.
1 in 10
It was now time for
significantly
ByteDance to go
changed.
global. The next step for ByteDance was a sophisticated marketing campaign, spending $3 million a day in marketing alone just in the American market. ByteDance would then get celebrities to join in. It would saturate the media and advertising world. You'd even see the NBA signing a multi-year partnership with TikTok. And with the TikTok logo being stamped on every exported video, you'd then see this marketing begin to snowball. You'd see all these influencers on YouTube Shorts and Instagram posting their TikTok videos. You'd see celebrities promoting their garbage on TikTok. But marketing alone wasn't enough. So the next step for TikTok's growth was through the acquisition process. In this time, ByteDance noticed that fellow Chinese company Musical.ly was gaining a foothold in the psyche of
This is the thing. I remember Musical.ly. I used to have an account, but I think I only posted one video. So hang on, I still have the email because I looked through my email the other day, and I looked at what I had as saved or important or whatever. Or no, it was in my drafts, and it was to share it. So let me make sure. Okay, yeah, I can share it. So here is the email that I have saved. That I found a little while back. It says April 1st, 2017 was when this draft was created. It says check out this Musical.ly made by RJY 2017 with Musical.ly app, and then here's the link, and then this looks like a download to probably the video itself. It's probably cringe considering it's 2017. This is like one of my first series I ever did. Yeah, it's something way different. But yeah, I remember ByteDance because I remember my cousins told me all about it. The cousins were like, "Hey, Robert, everyone's using this app. You should get on this app. We can message each other too on this app." And I was like, "Okay, fine, cool." So yeah, I actually remember music.
So rather than these companies trying to outcompete each other for ultimately the same goal, TikTok bought up Musical.ly for $900 million. This allowed TikTok to utilize Musical.ly's core selling point, the ability to go viral. Musical.ly provided a platform with an algorithm that rewards content above all else. Anyone could post some content and go viral the next day. Because of that, Gen Z rushed to it, allured by the prospects of fame, attention, and quick dopamine hits, using its AI technology to learn how to create the most addictive user interface possible.
Yeah, let me make sure my audio levels are still good. Alright, good.
There are several core psychological techniques used to addict you. The first is short videos in and of themselves.
Short. There may be 15 seconds or something like that. 15, 20 seconds. They're short videos. And so it's just that quick, it's almost like a little tasting menu of fabulous. You're trying this and trying that.
The reason for TikTok's initial success is that they took the knowledge companies learned from making catchy advertisements. Advertisers spend millions gathering your attention for up to 30 seconds. And oftentimes, whether you like the advert or not, you'll find they're easily digestible. So TikTok would use this video design, but instead of paying millions to make these videos, TikTok's own users would automatically use all their creativity and talent to garner some hint of virality. Then the most addicting videos made are rewarded favorites.
See, stuff like that was used to be on TikTok. I mean, I'm sure Zach King is probably still on TikTok, but stuff like that, stuff that was impressive, stuff that was cool. There was heart to TikToks. Now and I kid you not, now what TikTok is, because I installed it to talk to a friend the other day. Now all that TikTok is a bunch of girls shaking their butts and right in front of the camera.
Everybody for doing so. Once
like,
people catch on to
nearly
which
get into a
engagement
nips.
tactics work, these videos are then copied over and over again. The most catchy songs are replicated over and over, creating the cycle of people who are addicted to chasing virality. These creators then feed the masses' own addiction to these dopamine-sucking videos. But of course, not all of these videos can be addictive, and that's the point. Because one of the key social engineering tactics TikTok uses
Hang on, I gotta
is
show you
called
guys this too.
intermittent
Let me get
reinforcement.
a
I
screenshot
spoke about
that
this
is
tactic in my
docs
previous video on
reference.
TikTok. But basically, intermittent reinforcement is the reason why casinos are so addictive. Because by not winning every time on the slot machine, you're always excited for the next hit. I mentioned in this last video on TikTok that when you expect a reward after a certain action, you tend to work less for it. Yet when the timing of the reward or the certainty we'll get it at all is unpredictable, we tend to repeat that behavior with even more enthusiasm. And so in the case of TikTok, a video has to capture users' attention very quickly to cause them to watch the whole thing. If the video doesn't catch your attention within a couple of seconds, it's swiping onto the next one. And so after countless videos fail to give you that dopamine rush, you'll finally find that gem.
The fact that you're watching this video means you are energetically aligned with me and Aquafarians, but you may know them as mermaids.
And there are real consequences to this. TikTok's design is neurologically damaging. Researchers are only just beginning to understand this. Since Generation Z's infatuation...
Okay, so here's what I want to show you. I just uploaded it to Mediafire, and... Hang on, because I just moved the cord. Alright, good. I just uploaded it to Mediafire. Here's the screenshot. So I did this vote on my Instagram. I said, how accurate is your TikTok For You page? Which is kind of like the page people use all the time. I also said my new wallpaper. So 20% said less than 50. I spelled less than wrong. 50 to 70. 27% said that, and 27% also said 80 to 100, and 27% also said 100. Now I'm not gonna show this because this would show the Instagram accounts to my friends, and I want to dox them. But I have it pulled up right here on my phone. 3 people voted less than 50. 4 people voted 50 to 100. 4 people voted 80 to 100. And 4 people voted 100. That was very interesting to me on how like close these votes were. That was very interesting to me. And unironically, there are videos that are like, "Hey guys, have you like noticed my TikTok For You page has been like way too accurate lately? Like literally, it's like it's reading my mind. It's like, gee, I wonder why. Have you searched something that's on your mind?"
With TikTok, our attention spans have dropped to the lowest levels in recorded history, with our attention spans becoming reduced to that of a goldfish. And it doesn't even stop there.
The vertical scroll, which is what you have on Facebook, for example, you're scrolling up on the news feed. But what this does is if you stop on a video and you like that video, now it'll restart that video. So in a sense, you've got a horizontal scroll going on pleasurable content, and you also have a vertical scroll going.
And once
this is the thing, TikTok has like the best algorithm ever. Literally the best algorithm ever. Like that thing works fast. YouTube's algorithm works fast too. Twitch doesn't really have an algorithm that's like decent, but the algorithm on TikTok works fast. Like that is probably the best algorithm code that they have that exists out there for any social media platform.
Once the pleasure begins to dry up, you continue scrolling and the pattern repeats itself, leaving you wondering where the last few hours went. And even the small stuff like where the likes and comments icons are is purposely designed so that you can't stop wasting your time on this mindless app. And when you go onto TikTok, you'll see what I mean. The likes, comments, share, and profile buttons are on top of each other. This placement makes it the most accessible for users to click on these icons. But why is this important? Well, this layout may only be saving the user microseconds of their time, but in an app that runs on quick spurts of attention, these fractions of a second hold significant weight. When you're browsing social media on your phone, the screen you're using is very small. As a result, Every little inch of that screen is immensely important, since any little distraction or element that takes away from the content at hand has the potential to drive the user away. Wasting screen space is the cardinal sin when it comes to keeping users in that entertainment high. And so with this combination of musically and addictive user design and attention-sucking short videos, TikTok has been able to feast on a generation's goldfish attention span, allowing TikTok to take over the world. Because in just 3 months after its launch, TikTok gained 30 million users. But the real question is, how could ByteDance justify spending almost $1 billion on an app that only sells ads and emojis? I mean, TikTok wants you to think that hosting a few ads and selling emojis is enough to become a multi-billion company, but to anyone looking under the surface, you realize this is far from the truth. To understand where the real money is, we first need to understand the secrets behind the TikTok formula. If China wanted TikTok to take over the globe, TikTok would need to tap into the human mind. Not only through social engineering tactics, but also through their users' data. Because this is where the real money behind TikTok lies. This is why TikTok is now considered a cyber threat. And once again, it all comes back to the TikTok algorithm. Unlike Facebook, Netflix, Spotify, and YouTube, TikTok's algorithm goes one step further.
Okay, has anyone else noticed that your For You page has been a little too
That's
accurate
where I found the
lately?
video.
It hasn't been
Saw
things
that
that I'll
video.
Google or I talk about. It's been thoughts.
TikTok knows
See?
everything about us.
But how
See?
does TikTok know which videos
That's where I
will
found the
addict
video.
you?
It was when I was
Well,
paying
this
attention
all
to
starts
that
to
part.
become clear as soon as you begin reading TikTok's privacy page. A privacy page that literally admits to collecting as much data from you as possible.
And what kind of data is TikTok collecting as it runs on our phones? A heck of a lot more than you would think. Images, of course, that users post. But TikTok also collects information about the messages that you send, about the apps that you use, the other apps on your phone. It collects the sites that you visit. It collects your search history. It collects your keystrokes. It collects your location data.
That's scary, dude. Like, what do you think they're gonna do with that? My personal guess would be like they were making AI generated version of us, but like, you know how like Jurassic World, the like Fallen Kingdom, like the whole point they wanted to like save the dinosaurs to just sell them off, and then they were like wanted to create this Indoraptor dinosaur that like just followed commands and stuff. Like, what if they're doing that? What if China's doing that? Like, they're collecting our data to like get a sense of, you know, how the next generation's gonna think and how the next generation kind of is, to see like if they're a threat or not, and then they're gonna use that same data to make an AI generated person of us or an AI generated robot of us, and then take out all the bad of us, all the imperfections in us, and then make us just pretty much their soldiers, like artificial intelligence soldiers. I don't know. It's just, you could call that conspiracy, which I mean it kind of is, but I mean it feels like we're getting to that point. Honestly, to me, it feels like we're honestly getting to that point. Real quick, guys, I'm gonna run to the restroom again. I had a lot of soda, so alright, I have a mute button on my mic. Alright guys, I'm back. Let's continue this video.
It stores all of this and maybe lots more.
And so using all of this data, TikTok understands you better than you understand yourself. It predicts your future behavior. It learns at every second what you want and what you will do. And no, this isn't like Google or Facebook stealing your data and selling off to advertisers. This information is being used to tap into your biological hardwiring and most importantly, to fund China's openly stated goal of world domination. Now this may sound a little extreme, it may sound exaggerated, but I promise you it's anything but. Chinese President Xi Jinping has a dream, a Chinese dream of global dominance.
No force can shake the status of our great motherland. And no force can stop the progress of the Chinese people and the Chinese nation.
With this has come some new laws that coincide directly with TikTok. Since China adopted the National Intelligence Law in 2017, all Chinese citizens and companies have been under a legal obligation to help the government gather intelligence, whilst also keeping any cooperation with the government a secret.
And we also know that under Chinese law, TikTok, ByteDance, the parent, is required to share data with the Chinese Communist Party. Required to under Chinese law. That's not a matter of speculation. That's in the law. And it is required under Chinese law to share user data with Beijing. And TikTok has admitted that it has sent user data to China.
And so with TikTok collecting so much user data, the fact that TikTok is half run by the Chinese government, and now with the passing of this new law, TikTok is beyond problematic. Which is why several countries have been quick to ban TikTok.
What if they're like pulling here's another movie reference, a more known movie. What if they're like pulling a like Captain America Winter Soldier move, like where, you know, the S.H.I.E.L.D. made those, sorry, I'm a huge movie nerd if you can't tell. S.H.I.E.L.D. made those huge helicarriers, but they also were able to predict people's futures by using their past, like their credit card statements, their exam scores and everything, and they used their past to predict their future, so that way they could kill them off if they were going to be a threat to them. Like, what if they're pulling stuff like that? I mean, obviously not killing them off, but like just like learning, using people's past to tell their future, so that way China sees who's going to be a major threat and who's not.
Along with 223 other Chinese applications were banned by India.
I know, again, Indian government I'm kind of going on a conspiracy trail, but again, I kind of feel like we're getting to that point.
Now, the list includes the messaging
where that stuff is in the realm of possibility.
Popular video platform TikTok.
The Indian government claimed this was because they were damaging to India's sovereignty, integrity, defense, security, and public order. And this is why Trump signed an order to ban TikTok. In the order, Trump said that there is credible evidence that leads him to believe that ByteDance might take action that threatens to impair the national security of the United States. But with America's heated politics, Joe Biden could let Trump have this legal victory and revoke Trump's ban on TikTok. Although it wouldn't take long for Biden to realize this was a huge mistake. He literally had to admit later on that TikTok is, quote, a matter of genuine concern. In addition to this...
And so this is the thing, right? Again, I don't care about politics. I'm 14. I can't vote. You have to be 18 to vote. I still don't think I'll be able to vote in 2024. So, actually, I will be able to. No, I won't, actually. Never mind. So, math is hard for me sometimes. But this is the thing, right? Whether you like Trump or Biden, you gotta admit for at least Trump, like, at least he saw TikTok as a threat and banned it. But, you know, unfortunately, Biden reversed the ban, so...
As militaries around the world have banned TikTok on
I don't really care.
Devices.
I don't care about
this subject.
I don't care about who gets
Pentagon,
elected. I just care if they're going to be a good president.
The Department of Homeland Security and the TSA have all banned their employees and service members from using TikTok on government devices. In fact, the Pentagon even went so far as to say that employees should have their children uninstall TikTok from their personal devices.
But you may be asking, why does this matter? Why is TikTok labeled a national security threat? Why are governments around the world beginning to think that TikTok is the biggest cyber threat of the modern era? Well, stick with me here, because we're going to need to radically change the way you've been seeing TikTok.
The day is coming when the politicians realize that these social media platforms are picking the next president, the next congressman. They're literally picking.
This is where true power in the modern day lies.
Like Zolo's algorithm in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Literally, that's what it did. It predicted the people's past. It used the people's past to shape their futures. Essentially, that's exactly what the whole movie was about, and that's exactly what Captain America wants to stop, was Zolo's algorithm from doing that kind of stuff.
Because the people who control the algorithms are the people rewiring your brain. They are controlling the spread of information, they program the culture, and with TikTok now being the most downloaded app for several consecutive years, the results are becoming apparent.
I'm vaccinated, caffeinated, and freshly masturbated.
On the Chinese version of TikTok, all videos seen as degenerate by the Chinese government are actively removed, and yet at the same time, the algorithm promotes videos of hardworking, everyday people sharing their life and work accomplishments. As you could expect, these videos are generally wholesome,
Alright, sorry, I was closing my mind.
and positive, with there being a literal section on the Chinese TikTok called Positive Energy to promote the Communist Party. But in the West, TikTok promotes the exact opposite. On our version of TikTok, we're bombarded with endless insipid videos of girls shaking their ass to music, where we become obedient, placid consumers slumped open in front of screens. And this trend couldn't be better summed up with the rise of OnlyFans. In recent years, the rise of OnlyFans has been catalyzed by the wave of TikTok videos of OnlyFans models alluring desperate, atomized, lonely simps to fork over the hard-earned cash for a virtual girlfriend experience. Top OnlyFans creators have spoken out about how TikTok has enabled them to become these hyper-affluent online stars.
So today we are going to be going over how you can use TikTok to get OnlyFans subs, okay?
I think we're all like the main people on OnlyFans are roughly earning the same, I think. At the moment it's like $1 million a month.
This phenomenon wouldn't be happening anywhere near as quickly if not for TikTok, where TikTok is catalyzing this wave of desperate simps to hand over the money to these people who influence their everyday lives. And this became very apparent when a Wall Street Journal investigation on TikTok found that when you said you were 13 years old and searched for OnlyFans on the app, the algorithm would bombard you with videos about adult entertainment and drugs. The power TikTok yields over the younger generations is becoming more and more apparent. People are starting to see that through TikTok's AI technology and sophisticated algorithms, TikTok is able to create trends that radically influence the lives of so many in Generation Z. And what's scary is that so many of TikTok's core audience are barely even adults. TikTok users are being influenced into emulating these trends that are highly toxic and polluting to society. But of course, these trends are manifesting things far worse than degenerate behavior. The spread of political disinformation and infiltration of Chinese propaganda is now a serious concern to all of us. This first became apparent in the Western version of TikTok when pro-Hong Kong posts, anti-CCP posts, pro-Tibet content, and anything spreading awareness of the persecution of Uyghur Muslims was all removed. And this concern takes a further serious turn in light of recent reports that Zhenyu Data, which has reported links to the Chinese military and intelligence networks, has collected personal details of about 2.4 million people outside of China, with pretty much all of this data being sourced from TikTok. The former editor of the Hong Kong Economic Journal wrote in a column that TikTok is reaching deep into offices and homes, shaping how Americans understand real-world events. He went on to explain that while China's move to establish physical footholds around the world was easy enough to recognize, China's quote soft power ambitions have been much less noticed until recently, where China is using highly developed AI technology and powerful algorithms to erode free speech and Western culture. It's for this reason why ByteDance has pledged to hire 10,000 sensors to identify and block anti-government content. Now, I already know that some of you will think I'm fear-mongering, but when you look into China's history and current political motives, you start to realize how daunting the situation truly is.
China is also notorious for using its big tech companies to track and predict the behavior of its own citizens, as seen in this 60 Minutes report from last year. China's stated goal is to become the world leader in artificial intelligence by 2030. Senator Hawley fears China is doing the same thing here. Just last February, the Department of Justice charged 4 Chinese military hackers with stealing records from the credit reporting agency Equifax, affecting 145 million Americans, almost half the country. China has been caught hacking the second largest American health insurer, the agency that stores information about all government employees, even records from the Marriott hotel chain. Hawley says TikTok is just the friendly...
See, they store records from hotels, medical centers, banks. They're trying to take people's past, use it to shape the future. It's not out of a realm of possibility, in my opinion.
Face of Chinese data harvesting. So what would the Chinese Communist Party do with all this information?
Build dossiers, build files on every American who they can get their hands on. We could ask the same question about the Equifax breach. Why would the Chinese government be interested in the financial history of hundreds of millions of Americans? What are they going to do with that? Well, clearly, they thought it was very, very useful.
But when you look at
they're going to use people's
past
to shape their
future, it all begins to make sense. During the Communist Revolution, Mao became infamous for conquering
literally
the
Captain America
to capture the city.
Literally the plot of Captain America: Winter Soldier. That's literally the plot of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Is Zolo used his Zolo algorithm and took emails, bank accounts, medical stuff, your SAT scores, and he used their past to shape their future. That was literally the entire plot of Captain America's Winter Soldier. I keep saying Civil War.
This method was used not only for Mao's communist revolution, but also for Mao's dream of world domination, where the world's most developed countries were seen as the cities and the world's less developed countries were the countryside. This is why in recent years, China has gained a strong foothold across Africa and the Middle East. And now the next frontier is to gain a strong foothold in the global culture. Because if you can control the culture, you control the population. And as Xi Jinping declared, it is time to, quote, dare to draw the shining sword. So while the West becomes addicted to TikTok, where the West has their attention spans reduced to that of a goldfish, where people can't go 5 minutes without checking their phone absorbed by TikTok degeneracy, where we are having our brains literally rewired, China is now training their youth to prepare for war.
Chinese people will never allow any foreign forces to bully, oppress, or anyone who dares to try to do that will have their heads bashed. Bloody against the Great Wall of Steel forged by over
today, this process has
millions
been
of years
catalyzed
ago.
by Xi Jinping's Rejuvenation of the Nation project, which entails the banning of effeminate sissy men on TV, banning excessive video game usage, teaching children Xi Jinping's school of thought, teaching children how to use military equipment, and having schools have distinct masculine and feminine school curriculums. And today, it is now mandatory for Chinese students to read The Art of War. And as you'd expect, this has come with rampant military propaganda.
Obviously, they're not reading it for the same reasons that we read it in high school. At least I've heard. I'm not in high school. I'm going to 8th grade. Peace behind me, war in front. Put on military uniform. We must give up in ease.
So while the West is swamped by visual diarrhea of grotesque TikTok videos promoting crime, degeneracy, OnlyFans, and the CCP, the Chinese are trained to become stoic with a warlike spirit inoculated to degeneracy. This stuff.
They're literally look, TikTok is literally China and TikTok are literally trying to make us weak. They're literally trying to make us have short attention spans and make us just some lazy bums. We're gonna grow up, probably be homeless, and not really have a job, not really want to do anything, not pay attention. If we do get a job, we're not really going to pay attention in the orientation because of how short our attention spans are. Meanwhile, the Chinese government is training their youth to become full-on, super soldiers, literally become Captain Americas. Like, mini Captain Americas. Obviously not going to be as strong as him.
Stark contrast between the Chinese version of TikTok and ours serves to highlight how effective TikTok's AI technology is in manipulating the masses. Psychological weapons like TikTok.
Also, I know I sound spurgy about this topic, but it's just because I'm kind of really... If you can't tell, obviously you can, but I'm very animated about this topic because it's like, I'm 14. I can't stress this enough, but I'm 14. I'm going to grow up in this world that could potentially happen. So, yeah, that's why I'm very animated about this.
It's been used throughout history, from the Persians using cats as a psychological tactic against the ancient Egyptians, to Alexander the Great enforcing Greek culture against his opponents, to the British in using their global media networks to control the narrative of World War I. These psychological experiments have always been hidden away and more often than not, slip by under the public's noses. But now in our current Cold War, these tactics have become more and more advanced. And right now, the most dangerous psychological weapon...
Yeah, here's a thing, right, that I wanted to bring up earlier, but I didn't. Here's the thing, so you may be wondering, like, oh, well, how can they elect our next president? through TikTok. Like, they just showed how Britain controlled the narrative for World War I or II or whatever he said. They controlled the narrative for the American Revolution. For the American Revolution, you think the books and the newspapers in England were the same as the ones that were in America? You think that the British over there in England were reading the newspapers and it said, "Oh, England did taxation without representation. They got rid of that. They're making taxes more. What else? Someone shot a British soldier. Like all this other. Sorry, it's been a while since I've studied the American Revolution, so my memory's a little off on it. But you think Britain really controlled? You think Britain really let those American articles go all the way back to England for everyone there to read and not be on Britain's side? Because if anything, if I was a country, obviously, if anything, I would not let those go into my country, and I would put in positive articles that make me look like the good guy, and to help convince people in England to move over to America and fight for the crown. Obviously, obviously Britain has changed these books now, and information is more widely available to people, but.
Is TikTok. According to US military analysts, attacking the enemy's psyche is a key part of China's military strategy. The Chinese stratagems established by Sun Tzu in The Art of War was the foundation for this form of warfare, so it shouldn't be any surprise why The Art of War is mandatory reading. But then this all begs the question, why is China going to all of this effort? All the government employees, all the high-tech algorithms, all the social engineering, all the spying. Why is China so desperate to influence Western culture? Well, like all psychological weapons, there's only one reason for their usage: to destroy the enemy. Before I began making this video, TikTok's growth was never obvious. TikTok seemed like an anomaly, because somehow, in just a matter of months, I went from never knowing TikTok to seeing my friends, family, and self all become enveloped by its algorithm. Back then, we were in blissful ignorance to a force that has been brewing for decades, a brew now reaching its boiling point. Since the Cold War, the idea of World War III was always thrown around. Throughout this time, civil wars, skirmishes, propaganda all created the sense of uncertainty, but this feeling was never existential. Our enemies were always the underdogs. They were poorer with lower grade equipment, they had no influence on mainstream culture, they were just this hidden, mysterious force, far from the clutches of regular life. And when this tense time finally came to a close in 1991, people felt liberated. Like the threat of World War III was really just a fantasy after all. It was something to talk about for fun, but never an idea to be taken too seriously. Yes, there were threats from the Middle East, Russia, and North Korea, but it was never anything we couldn't handle. At the same time, we fueled China's growth. We bought their cheap products, their materials, and their lies. In just a matter of decades, China went from being...
Yeah, that's also another thing. I love it when people bring up oh, why are you buying from Apple or Nike? Or no, it's oh, Nike and Apple, all their stuff is made in China. They use little kid slaves to make the product you're holding in your hand. And it's yeah, that's probably true. However, you're buying from them still. That's the kind of stuff that makes me kind of mad. It's oh, they're child slaves. This is terrible and everything. And it's okay, yeah, but you're buying from them. So if you're hardly against that, which again, I'm not for slavery, obviously. I don't support slavery, but I'm not gonna sit here and not say I don't have an iPhone and an iPad sitting right next to me. But I don't support slavery, obviously, but there's I hate it when people are like that, when they're oh, they're child slaves, obviously. There's child slaves, Apple uses child slaves, or Twitter uses child slaves, or all that stuff, and then it's but you're buying from them. So you can't care that much, dude.
Being a third world country with a GDP of 90 billion to having a GDP of $12 trillion, a number now fast overtaking the United States. This growth has never been seen before in history. Admittedly, we knew this was coming, but none of us had any real reason to be concerned. At least, we didn't think there was. China's just that place we make our iPhones, we told ourselves. So over the years, we shipped off our entire economy to China. Banking moguls on Wall Street propped up the Chinese economy with billions in investments. Elected officials in the UK did their part by selling out the country's core infrastructure and national energy grid to China. Talking heads in Washington did their part by telling the public that the real threat to the West was Putin and his army of Macedonian troll farms. And us? We bought into China's surveillance technology and downloaded TikTok en masse. Because we were in our own little bubble, our main concern was celebrities.
Blam.
Crap.
Political scandals.
Orange man bad.
Orange man bad.
Orange man.
Orange man.
Literally. Literally. And then, like,
pursuits.
all that, like, Twitter is just like, Biden.
But like any
Biden,
bubble, there was
Biden,
always a burst. And our burst came in 2020.
Literally, that's true.
From the very beginning, it was never about TikTok. TikTok is just a means to an end, a tool in an operation. All the TikTok dances, TikTok ads, all the lip syncing, it was a facade for something sinister, something greater, something known as the 2049 plan. Now, what does this entail? Well, as you can imagine, it's not something to be taken lightheartedly. China's push for world domination has been government policy for the last 50 years and is embodied within the Chinese spirit. For decades now, China has manipulated us into believing that China was just another capitalist state, dissolving its ideological ties to Marxism. But this couldn't be any further from the truth. China's intent has been to acquire as much money, physical power, and technological control as possible. And China has gained the money, China has gained the physical power, and now China is controlling technology. And so it's no coincidence that just in line with the 2049 plan, TikTok suddenly took over the psyche of millennials and Generation Z. And that's the genius behind all of this. China is engaging in a war and we didn't even realize we were a part of it. China is taking over the world economically. China is taking over the world militarily, secretly building up its army reserve.
Top U.S. military officer General Mark Milley provided the first official U.S. confirmation of what he called a, quote, very concerning Chinese hypersonic weapons test that military experts say appears to show Beijing's pursuit of an Earth-orbiting system designed to evade
China will run the world by 2050. Mark my words, China will rule the world by 2050. Your mayor in your town, in your state, your governor, all will be elected through China. Watch. Mark my words.
American missile defenses.
China's now got the largest navy and is training its youth to become warlike robots.
That's the thing, by the way, right? So you may be wondering, well, how's that gonna happen? They're gonna feed you videos to show you why you should support that candidate that they want you to vote for. Like, mark my words, they're gonna feed you those videos to your TikTok feed to the brim with those videos telling you, hey, this guy's gonna do this, and it's gonna do this, and it's gonna do this. And will some of those be true? Yeah, probably. Will some of them, most of them probably be lies? Also, yeah, probably. But that's how they're gonna do it. That's how they're gonna get you to elect your next official. They're gonna want you to go off of stuff like TikTok. They're not gonna want you to, like, do your own research, actually, and look through multiple sources, and look at both parties and both sides, and see who you should really vote for, and make a decision yourself. They want to make the decision for you.
China has infiltrated the West with countless spies that have slept with the heads of the national security.
A bombshell new report says a suspected Chinese spy targeted California politicians. One of her biggest targets was Bay Area Representative Eric Swalwell.
China is taking over the universities and schools across the West, and now China is taking over the culture. It took until 2020, when the bubble burst, did we catch on to what was going on. We had been played. A sudden novel virus emerging from China, a sudden militarization of China's military, a sudden realization of—
That's another thing. A lot of people are like, oh, the virus totally didn't come from China. It's like, BS didn't come from China. And then they're like, oh, it's not made in a lab. Like, BS again, that wasn't made in a lab. Like, are you I don't say this like that, but are you literally retarded? Like, to think that it didn't come from a lab? You saying it just popped up out of nowhere? Like, sure, some diseases, do they pop up out of nowhere through, like, some other means, like animals or something? Yeah, sure, but a virus this widely spread? No way. No, it's, again, here's a video game reference. Resident Evil type stuff, where they're developing, like, a whole little virus to sell as a weapon or use as a weapon. Like, look, Look.
Of the national security threat TikTok posed, we were finally confronted with the truth. It has taken until today, when governments and elites are beginning to wake up to this dawning realization that World War III...
I think it's been confirmed too that China made the virus, or the virus leaked from a lab in China. I'll search that up after this video ends, because we only got like a minute left.
It is no longer a fantasy. Our governments, having been hesitant to even consider the thought of banning TikTok, are now realizing the grave danger we are in. China is currently telling its military to prepare for war. China is taking foreign hostages within its own country. China is rapidly building up its military. China is developing AI technology never seen before in the West. And China is now not only engaging in skirmishes with our allies, but is now preparing for a full-blown war with Taiwan, sending over more than 150 fighter jets to surround Taiwan. As a last resort, our governments have joined a pact to begin countering China's preparation for war. But perhaps it's too late. With our society more divided than ever, with our politicians weaker than ever, with our youth more controlled than ever, when you connect all these dots, you start to realize where the real wealth behind TikTok lies. It lies in our addiction. It lies in our shortened attention spans. It lies in our own demise. TikTok allows China to gain vast sums of money from playing on our own psychology, promising you that dopamine hit, that dream, that attention, dangling it in front of you like a carrot on a stick, disguised as an innocent little app. But there are those of you that are concerned with what's going on, those of you who care about your privacy, those of you who care about your attention, those of you who understand the other side. And so to those of you who feel this way, I feel the need to remind you to delete TikTok. Because if we want a high quality future, we must reject our low quality present.
They don't have Instagram, get it. There, it's deleted. I don't need that stuff, dude. I don't need that stuff. I mean, Instagram tracks me too. Everything tracks you, to be honest. I know I said I was gonna download a virus, but or not a virus. I was gonna download a browser and go to TikTok, but I just realized that browser was like a private browser anyways, so it wasn't really gonna be as effective as like a different browser. And all my other browsers all have accounts on them because I got Brave and everything. But you get the point. Let's search up that China thing. Here, let me take out cats. COVID-19 China lab. Okay, do 3 new studies, add to proof of COVID-19's origin in animal market. So this is apparently a alleged place. Alright, let's look at some more stuff. I'm not gonna read any of these, but let's look at the levitivity to this, or whatever. I forgot the word, I'm sorry. Because, you know, just one article saying that, sure, you can excuse that, because it's one article that just says that, so it's probably someone just talking out of their butt. But when you see, like, stuff like articles and journal sites like Washington Post, The Guardian, NBC, okay, so let's see. China says COVID might have originated in U.S. cause there's no way it originated in the U.S. What was where was the first case? Where was the first COVID case? Washington State resident. The timeline of the COVID. No, I don't want an American. When was coronavirus first identified? It caused a common cold later that decade. In 19... God, it's like a whole timeline. I just want like one simple question answered. Alright, here's what we know. It was first detected in China in late 2019 and has set off a global pandemic. You know why they call it COVID-19 and not COVID-20? Because in 2020, that's when things shut down. They call it COVID-19 because in very late 2019 was when the virus came out. That was when the virus started spreading in all the other countries. But the reason they don't call it COVID-2020 is because it only got to the US in like very early 2020. So yeah, BS COVID didn't come from a lab, and BS COVID didn't come from China. Honestly, like I will tape that to my grave. But yeah. Anyways, sorry for being so spurty the stream kind of during that TikTok topic. But thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please smash like, subscribe, and yeah, delete TikTok off your phone. Uninstall it, block it off your web browsers, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.